And let me hit the, yes, recording. Thank you. Yeah, so now we're gonna go over some agenda for tonight. So we're gonna have our panelists introduce themselves, and after that, it will be a panel discussion where we will ask some questions for the panelists to get to know them a little better. And by the way, they are all MAISS alumni. So if you have any question, feel free to just throw it in the chat. And after that, we're gonna move on to breakout rooms. And it's gonna be one panelist per room. So everyone can join any room and can move around whenever you want. So next slide, please. Yeah, our first panelist is Ryan Rafati, and he's my MAISS mentor, by the way. And the second panelist is Farbod, and he's a previous MAISS president from 2 years ago. And now I would love to have you both introduce yourself by mentioning your name, your role, your company's name, the year that you graduated from UCI, and what did you do for MAISS?
Yeah, that was a lot, but hey everyone, I'm just gonna start off by saying it's really great to be here and with you all today. So like Mickey was kind of saying, I used to be a mentor at first, and so I had Mickey as my mentor and Alex too as my mentee. And so it's crazy to be here today as an alumni. It's just great to see so many people as well as so many new faces, familiar faces. It's just crazy. So having, I guess, said all of that, my name is Ryan and I graduated UCI 6 months ago, so back in June. And I'm currently in a rotation program at Western Digital where I work in 5 specific functions. So I'm in product marketing, biz ops, pricing, product management, corporate strategy. So I'm rotating between those 5 roles. And I'll talk more about it later, but I'll hand it off to Farbod to introduce himself.
Cool, thank you, Ryan. Hello, everyone. I'm Farbod, and as you can see on the screen, I am a software engineer at Google. I wish I could say it's good to see everyone, but I don't think I can see everyone. I'm kind of bad at using Zoom, kind of a boomer in that regard. I'm mostly used to Google Meet, so my apologies there, but I will try to figure it out throughout the night. But yeah, so my role is pretty simple compared to Ryan's. I'm just a software engineer, so I just do a lot of coding and design work. I work for the Gaia backend team at Google. So basically, that means that I work on account infrastructure. So if you have a Google account that you use to sign in to Gmail or Google Drive or anything like that, which I'm sure like everyone here does because UCI uses G Suite, then you have a Google account, and that's I like my team handles the infrastructure for your Google accounts. So that's what I do at work. For MAISS, I used to be president. Before that, I was vice president of community development. And before that, I was an intern for community development as well, I believe. But yeah, MAISS was a lot of fun. I'm a huge fan of MAISS, as you can tell by how many different roles I did within it and how I ended up being president at the end. But it was a lot of fun. I met a lot of really cool people that I'm still in touch with to this day, and some of them are in this room. So yeah, it's awesome to meet everyone here and be a part of this event.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Like, I also love MAISS a lot. So yeah, so moving on to the first question. So what is your day-to-day role, work life look like? And also what's your most favorite part and most challenging part of your role?
Yeah, so I can start off. And my role is probably going to be a little bit different than Farbod's just because he's in a specific role within the organization that he's in. But for me, being that it's a rotation program, my role really depends on a team-to-team basis, right? So for example, right now, I'm on the corporate strategy team. So I've been doing like 2 really big corporate initiatives to give kind of strategic insight to the consumer solutions team. And so for the past like few weeks, it's been a lot of research, stakeholder interviews. I've created too many PowerPoint slides and presented to a bunch of different directors and VPs, giving those strategic recommendations. But So that's what I'm doing right now, right? But last month it was a lot different because I was on the pricing team, and that's where my schedule was a little stricter, and I was doing a lot more Excel work. I was running kind of promotions for Amazon, doing like Black Friday deals and posting stuff on like Amazon and having our products up, and it was very different, right? So it just really depends on like team to team, but I'd say my favorite part of being in a rotation program is just the fact that I really am in like a different team doing like different things every single time, right? Um, so you know, being in a rotation program, um, just you just kind of have that luxury of going through different teams and working with different people, and just having that luxury of learning and doing so many different things. So that's definitely the favorite part of it. Mickey, was there a second part to that question, or is that it?
Yes. So the second part is, what is the most challenging part of your role?
Okay, okay. I thought I forgot something. That's why I was trying to remember it. But in terms of the most challenging part, um, I honestly, it's probably that same thing. The fact that I'm in a rotation program means that I'm rotating into different teams, and I have to, you know, have a different background for being in a different team. So, as an example, right, coming out of college, I had a big finance background, so I was doing very corporate finance type work. I was in UFA, and then my senior year, I decided to kind of switch everything up. And so my first rotation at Western Digital was actually product marketing, and I had to know things like the 4 Ps of marketing or branding strategy, right? And these are things that I really had no idea about. So it was kind of challenging at first, being able to learn everything about a certain team and learn everything about product marketing, that example. But I feel like that challenge also made it one of my favorite things, just because after the first 2 or 3 weeks of really struggling and trying to get the gist of things, I really kind of adjusted, and I was able to learn something that was very different and required a very different skill set than I was used to. So I guess TLDR, my favorite and most challenging part of my role is just being in a rotation program and being able to have those challenges and have those rewards that come with it.
Sorry, so the question is the favorite parts and most challenging parts of my role.
Yeah, and also like, what is your day-to-day work life look like? Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a good question. So I think the answer to this question is a little complicated. I think the most challenging and the most rewarding part of my role is actually like the same thing. And I don't know exactly how to describe it, but basically when I first started working at Google, there was just like a fire hose of like information just thrown at me. And it's very overwhelming. And especially since, you know, not only are you you know, working for, you know, a company that expects a lot out of you, it also doesn't help that you're working with so many other people that are so talented at what they do and how like skilled they are. And you know, you can't help but like compare yourself to them, right? So that is a pretty well known phenomenon at Google and like at a lot of different companies called like imposter syndrome. I personally, you know, occasionally struggle with it. It's like it's definitely tough, and especially since the people that you work with are like the people that have like written the textbook on like very important topics within computer science, right? So like, and not only is it about computer science, but it's about like software engineering, which is a little different. I know like there are, you know, differences in the major at UCI, but in a practical sense, the difference between computer science is like theory versus application, right? So in a computer science course at UCI, you might learn how to, I don't know, sort a list of numbers, you know, from smallest to biggest. But in practice, software engineering requires you to do that. Like, how do you sort a list that is stored on 100 different computers across the globe, right? And so those are the types of problems that people are solving at Google. And those are the types of problems that are only really faced by companies like Google and Meta and like all these other like big tech companies that work at those scales, right? So the set of problems that you're solving is very different than the ones that you're solving in a typical CS class, even though they do, you know, overlap in some ways. So I think that was very challenging, was just like readjusting your whole like frame of thought and the way that you solve problems to this absolutely new scale of thinking. I remember the first time that, so because I work on the account infrastructure team, we have like dashboards where we can like monitor our, some like a metric called QPS, which means queries per second. So the number of basically requests that are sent to Google every second. And at first I was looking at like, you know, the x-axis of the graph obviously is just over time, but the y-axis was like the number of queries, right? And I was like looking at these numbers, it was like 150 to like 180. And I was like, oh wow, you know, that's a lot of, you know, 150 to 180 queries per second. And then I didn't realize that it actually meant 150 million to 180 million queries per second, right? So the scale is absolutely, you know, like it's really hard to wrap your head around the scale. So just, yeah, you totally have to like rearrange like how you think about problems at Google. And I think like that's a good thing in the sense that like obviously like you're learning more. It also feels like sometimes you're becoming like very specialized in a very like niche maybe area of computer science, like where, you know, oh, like I'm learning a lot about how to like operate infrastructure at this scale, but like, do I really need that everywhere else or anywhere else? So that is one thing. I think the learning aspect of it is super challenging, but also like my favorite part of it. It's just a very tough role, and I'm definitely you know, humbled every day by like all the information that there is out there to absorb, and how much of it that I don't know. And the second part of your question was my daily, I guess, day to day. So that's a good question. It really depends on the day. I mean, it also depends very heavily like on the week. You know, sometimes like I have a performance review coming up in the next 2 weeks, so I'm pretty stressed out. Not because like they stress me out, like everyone at my job is like super nice, and like there's no like sort of, you know, toxic pressure or anything like that, like, oh yeah, you better, you know, do well on your performance review. But it's more like I want to push myself and I want to make sure that I'm like exceeding you know, the expectations, so that I can like advance my career, you know, which is typical. Everyone wants to do that. So so yeah, so now because there's a performance review coming up, like I'm maybe working longer just to, you know, plan certain things that I've been working on for a few months, and I'm just trying to like get that last stretch in, so I can say like, okay, like this is actually accomplished. Because it's really like, it's one thing to write, you know, almost finished doing this, versus like actually, you know, having done it and being able to like say it as like an accomplishment. So there are some days that honestly I feel like I don't do anything, but overall I would say like a day to day looks like, you know, I work on design and code for the most part, and a lot of design work relies on communicating with other people. So that means I have to like, you know, schedule meetings and send personal messages to like higher up engineers and like figure out like what the requirements are for a certain project that I'm working on. Like translating what like all the, you know, technical jargon that they use into something more understandable, and then putting that in my design, and then, you know, having other engineers look at my design, having them approve it, you know, tweaking it, you know, them leaving comments, and then, you know, finally implementing the design. So that's the general life cycle for how like you would work on a specific feature, or even project you decided to pick up for yourself. It starts with design, and then you implement it, and then the implementation part consists of writing code. So when you write code, basically there has to be at least one or two other people always reviewing what you're doing at all times, because like mistakes are inevitable, and you know, you're going to make a mistake. So there's always people reviewing your code. So make sure, you know, making sure that everything looks good, and, you know, constantly like reviewing comments that other people are leaving for you and adjusting. Aside from actual, you know, development, software development, we got like, because we work with account data, there's a lot of legal requirements that our team has. So, you know, a lot of the time, our internal like lawyers will reach out to us and say, you know, hey, like we really need this data, this important data, or we really need you to, there are like a set of important accounts that we need you to, you know, put on hold for something. And so like that is also part of my workflow is, you know, looking and analyzing our data or is fulfilling special requests that legal has for us within the company. But yeah, I'd be happy to go into more detail if anyone has any specific questions too.
Sounds good. It's really interesting to hear like what you both do on the day-to-day, and your most favorite part and challenging part are the same thing. So that's really interesting. I'm gonna pass it on to Jamie for the next question.
Yeah, thank you so much. My next question would actually be for Ryan. So I remember you're talking about with the Western Digital Rotational Program being a little bit challenging, right, to adjust to at first. So I'm curious, like on the positive side, like what skills do you think you've acquired from it? And then like, do you enjoy the rotations compared to like a more set role where you only do one traditional thing for a while?
Sure. Okay. I'll address this as like two separate parts, right? So in terms of skills I've acquired, right? And I think this goes with any job, depending on what type of role you're given, right? So if you're going like the finance route, you'll get Excel skills. If you're going like the software engineering route, you get a lot of like coding and those kind of technical skills. I think aside from those typical skills that I've learned, right? Like I've definitely done my fair share of Excel, done my fair share of PowerPoint, and all these technical skills you kind of like naturally learn as just being part of your team, right? And for me, being part of different teams, I've learned like a bunch of different technical skills and functions, right? Like Tableau, I mentioned Excel, SAP, and all these different things, right? But I think one of the bigger skills that I learned, and I think I kind of got the gist of this in college, right? Because I did a lot of different, like I used to like host these alumni events, right? Being part of like UFA and MUSA and MAISS a little bit as well. But I think the bar is a little different when you go into the workplace, right? Like I definitely feel like when you're presenting to a VP or presenting to a director, it's just a whole different level of stress and of like, you know, it's a different skill, I feel like. And I think the more I just spoke with people and the more I presented, the more kind of like comfortable I got with public speaking. And so I'd say along with like technical skills, I think one of the bigger skills I got through this rotation and giving so many deliverables and so many different projects was just getting better at that public speaking aspect, right? And kind of like knowing the people I was presenting to. And I feel like that's a very big thing, right? Because a lot of people are very intimidated by public speaking, and you know, it's important to kind of know your audience as well. So skills, I'd say technical skills, I learned a lot, but public speaking was also really big. And then the second part of your question, what do I enjoy about the rotations compared to like a more set role? Is that right? Okay, I think right now, just being a young professional, I think rotations are really great. Just because like I'm building all these different skills, right? I'm on like product marketing for 6 weeks. And next week I'm on like biz ops, and then I'm in like product management. It's really nice for right now just to kind of like expose myself to different teams, learn these different skill sets, and continuously set coffee chats with different people and like get to know who they are. But I feel like short term it's very valuable, but I feel like long term I'd really enjoy a set role, and that's the point of kind of a rotation, right? So when you continue rotating, you find a team you like, and then you kind of decide like what team would you want to like settle with depending on your interests and what you could think really boosts your kind of learning curve or your personal professional learning curve, right? So personally for me, the next couple months I'll actually be finishing off my rotation, so I'm very excited for that, just because I feel like I've finally taken advantage of all those different rotations. And I'm ready to go in like a more set role. And I'm also just tired of like introducing myself to like different teams every 6 weeks. So TLDR, I do enjoy the rotations, but I'm looking forward to a set role. So.
Yeah, thanks for detailing your experience with the rotations. I hope you found you know, what team you like to work with, and you know, have a good idea of a set role to go into after your rotations are complete. My next question is for Farbad. I want to know what compelled you to enter the field of
software engineering. And I know you mentioned that Google has some challenging tasks for you to do. What are some of the skills from your previous internships that you still use now at Google?
Sure, yeah, that's a good question. So it's also a very deep question. So what compelled me to enter computer science? I was originally not planning on doing computer science. So when I was like pretty young, I think my dad was like, oh, like, look at this program. Like, cause I think my dad had like pretty limited like exposure to pretty like basic programming. And when I say basic, I literally mean basic. Like there's a programming language called BASIC. And it's very basic. And so like he was just like, okay, like I don't even remember how old I was. I think I was like 11 or 12 or something like that. And he was just like, okay, can you like write a program that like adds up all these numbers or something? And I had like no idea how to even start approaching it. So he would just obviously like tell me how to do it. But I mean, I kind of like sucked obviously like at first, and I didn't know what I was doing. But I thought it was cool. Like I was like at that point in life, I was very used to just like the traditional way of thinking about problems. It's just like math, right? Like algebra, like, or, just, basic stuff like that. But then I think it sort of like really tickled my brain in a way that I like hadn't before, like where I was like, whoa, this is like a really new way of thinking. And I thought it was interesting. And I like did a few exercises with it, and I had a little fun, but then I kind of forgot about it for the longest time. Then in high school, I was like, the first couple years, I didn't know what I was doing at all. Like I had zero idea. One day, like I was just talking to my parents and I was like, what do I do for, like a job, like after high school and college, like what am I supposed to do? I have like no interest, or like it felt like that, right? And my parents, like I like am Iranian, and so like they were just like, yeah, just become a doctor, like that was sort of the standard response. And I was like, okay, I mean that sounds I mean normal enough. I had no idea like how difficult medical school was or anything like that. I was just like, yeah, doctor, I guess. I mean, I have nothing else to do, so might as well. So then for a while there, for a period of like few months, like when people ask me like, oh, like what do you want to pursue in college and stuff, I'd be like, yeah, like pre-med, like medical school. But like every time I said it, it was so weird. Like I was like, wait, like that doesn't feel right. Or like I almost felt like embarrassed like when I was answering that question, because it didn't feel super genuine when I was answering. Eventually I joined our high school's robotics team. And I was originally gonna join part of the team where I just like use power tools to like drill holes into metal and like build like the robot, right? Like I wasn't planning on programming or anything. But then one of my friends was like, hey, like we should do the programming, division of the team. And I was like, yeah, whatever, we can do that too. I don't really care. So I joined that, and I was very bad at the beginning. Like I was unable to grasp like the most basic concepts. And I was just like, okay, like this is not fun. But eventually over time, I got a little better at it. And then I got really into it. Like after a year or two, like I was really like into it, like to the point where it was like the activity that I would do after school. So during class, I would just be thinking like, okay, like I'm excited to like continue working on the robot like after I'm done with class. So for a while there, it was like a huge part of my identity during high school, and I really enjoyed doing it. And my senior year, and at this point I was still like, medical school, like that's what I'm gonna do. So my senior year, one of my friends who was also on the robotics team was like, so like he just asked me one day, he was like, so you're applying as a computer science major to like, the colleges that you're applying to? And that kind of like, I was just kind of like, wait, what? Like who told you? Like, no, like that's not what I'm gonna do. And he was also really confused. He asked me like why I wouldn't consider doing that. And I guess like that question really like started a chain of events that day where I like started to truly like question like why I wasn't doing computer science. I really didn't have a good answer for him. So I started to think about it, and I realized like it's something that I really enjoy. Truly, right? I truly enjoyed it to the point where like I was willing to do it for free, right, at that point, and I did for like many years before I eventually got a full-time job. But it was like just a no-brainer at that point. I was like, wait, this has been the thing that like why have I been saying medical school like when like this is the thing that like interests me so much. So eventually like I convinced my parents. I was like, yeah, like I think at first it was like hard. It was like, oh, I'm gonna do biomedical engineering, like something like in between like medicine and tech. But then eventually I was just like, yeah, I'm just applying as a computer science major. Like I don't care at this point. So I joined or I started UCI as a computer science major, and the rest is just like I did the coursework, I applied for internships, and now I'm a full-time software engineer. So that's how it, I guess, started. I know that was a long story. And then the second part of your question was, what did I take away from my internships that helps me with my current job? So I interned at two companies before working full time. One of them was actually Western Digital, funny enough. And that was a cool experience. That was my summer after my third year. Honestly, nothing. And I don't mean that in like a way where like I didn't learn anything from my internships, therefore you shouldn't do internships. In my particular case, for some reason, the managers that would hire me, like the hiring managers for my internships, like just wanted me to do like machine learning related stuff, like for my summer project, even though I had no like machine learning or AI or math like experience. Like I'm honestly like pretty terrible at math, like for someone who's a software engineer. So yeah, for some reason that was like just handed to me for both internships. They were like, yeah, you're going to do a solo machine learning related project. So I was pretty much just working on like math problems like for 2 summers. And then when I started my job, my full-time job, I was kind of lost a little bit because I had no like real software engineering experience. So that definitely added to the challenge a little bit. But yeah, I'm sorry that I couldn't give you a better answer for that.
No, honestly, like thank you for the honesty. I think it shows that like the kind of different experiences that we get from internships, like some people might learn a lot, some people might learn a little bit, like it really depends. But I was kind of curious, like how do you guys think that MAISS has helped you throughout your time at UC Irvine and furthered your career? I know you had like a little bit of like a experience with MAISS, Ryan, but if you want to speak on like anything specific or anything like that, but yeah.
Yeah, MAISS definitely didn't teach me nothing, that's for sure. I was a MAISS mentor, so Alex and Mickey both taught me a lot. But I think like MAISS and not just MAISS, but like UFA, Musa. So a little bit of a background on me. My first year, I didn't really get involved in like different clubs and different organizations. For whatever reason, I kind of just enjoyed staying at home and like playing video games, watching anime, and I still do that, right? But the point is that I really wasn't doing anything my first year. I wasn't getting any like social interaction. I wasn't like talking to people that, I always had enjoyed talking to people in high school, and like I was always very social. But I don't know, for some reason, first year I didn't really do much. And so I think what, clubs like MAISS did, especially MAISS, we had a lot of different like kickbacks and like events and like really great like bonding experiences, right? Even with my like personal mentees, I feel like we really bonded. And I think that like social interaction piece was just really, really big and always there when I was at MAISS. I felt like MAISS was the best place to go when it came to meeting people that are interested in business and also interested in tech. And I continue to feel that way as well. And that's why I decided to come here today, because I feel like the people at this club are really, really awesome. So, and that's also like advice for all of you too, like make sure that you're being involved in these events, right? Like MAISS specifically hosts some really, really good events where you can get to meet people in business like myself, people that are kind of on the tech side like Farbod. And even like if you're not meeting alumni or meeting like company people, you're meeting people that are within like a social clique that is very related to what you're interested in, right? Regardless of it being MAISS, regardless of it being student government, it's always a good thing to get involved. And I think MAISS specifically really gave me that resource of getting to know really great people.
Yeah, that was an awesome answer, Ryan. I see that we have a mutual love for MAISS. So yeah, I have a long history with MAISS. It's a pretty cool club. It's actually the first club I think I joined at UCI. And what did I learn from MAISS? So, I mean, aside from the fact that I spent so much time, you know, like devoting myself to the club and also getting so much from it. For example, I was a mentee originally, right? So as a mentee, definitely if any of you are mentees, be sure to like take advantage of your mentor. You like ask them for resources, ask them for help. Like they're there to help you. So my MAISS mentor was great. He really helped me like before my first ever like technical interview. Like he helped like do a mock interview with me, and that was awesome. And I've had like many friends who have been like mentors at MAISS, and like I constantly see them like helping their mentees with professional growth and like just like hanging out and being friends. And I think it's awesome that MAISS like provides that sort of like mentorship connection, especially for like this specific like group of people, right? Like people who are like interested in business and tech. And like that's I feel like MAISS really stays true to like catering to that like crowd of people. So yeah, I mean, from being a mentee, I learned so much like from my mentor. And then moving on from there, like I was involved in MAISS board first as like a VP, and then the president. And that just teaches you a lot, like so much in like aside from like the technical skills that like you would need at a role, like at a job, like for example, like my job or like Ryan's job, like the auxiliary like things that you learn at like a club like MAISS, like event planning and like talking to people and public speaking and like all these things, like is so invaluable. Because like at your job, it's very easy to just like be in your comfort zone and just put your head down and do your work and not really like get out of your comfort zone and like expose yourself so much like a club like MAISS enables you to do. So I think in that way, like MAISS really helped me with like getting out of my shell and like becoming like the like more well-rounded person that I feel I am now. And just in general, like I think the community that MAISS brought me closer to was another like invaluable thing. Like I honestly like talk to so many people who I met like at MAISS still to this day. And definitely make sure that you're like Ryan said, like you're coming out to the events and like talking to people. And like these are the places where you're like meeting people and making connections and like potentially like even networking with people. So yeah, MAISS honestly, like best decision I made to join MAISS in college.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your experiences with MAISS. MAISS was also the first club that I joined on campus, and I met a lot of great people. And I'm a biz admin major, so I don't know a lot about comp sci, and I don't really consider myself a technical person, but this organization has really helped me a lot with that. And I've met a lot of great people who can, I don't know, share their knowledge on tech. So now we're going to be moving on to the breakout rooms section of this event. So we're going to open our breakout rooms right now. And Farbod and Ryan, you guys, join your separate breakout rooms, and everyone else, choose a breakout room and feel free to ask any questions.
Sorry, which breakout room do I go to and which does Farbod go to?
Okay, so
Are they named?
each breakout room has a name. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, dumb question.
No, you're all good.
Oh, there I am. Okay, see you guys there.
Yes, and I will be here in the main room. So if anyone have any questions or anything, just let me know. And yes, both Ryan and Farber already joined the room. So yeah.
I think my my Zoom client crashed.
Oh, I can move you to your room.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
I can do that too. Hold on.
Wait,
let
actually,
me-
for some reason, I'm bugging.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright,
I just did.
cool.
Is the recording paused?
Saying that thank you so much everyone for coming, and thank you both Farboy and Ryan for joining us and sharing a lot of experience, advice, and also talk to all of us in the breakout room. I'm gonna drop a link for our feedback form. So we wanna know how we did tonight. And I also drop their LinkedIn there. So make sure to connect with them, and you can ask for a coffee chat or ask anything you like, because they here because they wanna like help y'all get to like where you wanna be, like professional wise or like academic wise, like anything, just ask away. And next week, May's gonna have an in-person event. It's gonna be web development. So looking forward to see you guys there. It's gonna be again on Thursday at 7 to 8 p.m. So thank you so much everyone for coming.
Thank you for having us. I really appreciate everyone who stuck around today to hear us talk. Yeah,
Yeah.
feel free to add me and Ryan on LinkedIn, and if you have any questions, just feel free to send them.
Yeah, Farbot speaks for me. Definitely. Please add me. Please feel free to connect. We're always here to help with alumni. And thank you, Mace.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Well, did we ever restart the recording?